Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Forward Corporation and T.R. McTaggart, Angler Quest Boats, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us as we work our way through the month of November. Now, next week, this week coming up, Thanksgiving week, can you believe that? It's been an interesting year, that's for sure. But one of the good things, one of the positive things coming out of this whole bad year is a renewed interest in the outdoors. License sales are up. There are more people hunting this fall than there have been in a long time, and I think that's absolutely great. Will that trend continue when things get back to normal? We have no way of knowing. I would like to think that many of those people who got back into the outdoor lifestyle will continue on, but we'll take what we can get, right? We'll take the positive impact while we can get it. By the way, I said hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. It seems crazy that I have to make that distinction, but first of all, it is a 3-hour show. Most of our affiliates carry all 3 hours of the show. But regardless of whether they do or not, I just appreciate access to airtime across the state. Weekend airtime is very valuable, and the fact that these stations are allowing me to share their airtime is a big deal to me, and I appreciate it. Also, I talked about this being a radio show. Outdoor Magazine Radio is recorded, produced, and distributed as a radio show. There aren't many statewide outdoor radio shows here in Michigan. But there are a lot of podcasts. Now, I bring up podcasting. I think podcasting is wonderful. It's a way for anybody to create an audience for a product or a program. Outdoor Magazine Radio is distributed as a radio show, but I also make the audio available as a podcast. And it's nothing more than the audio from the radio show made available somewhere else. Where do you find it? Well, the best place to go, I think, would be on the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. MikeAveryOutdoors.com. All things Outdoor Magazine, all things Mike Avery Outdoors, you can find them there. It's also on the Facebook page, Mike Avery Outdoors on Facebook. Now, Amazon Music is added podcasting. We're on there. It goes on my Twitter feed, my Avery Outdoors Twitter feed. It's also on LinkedIn, iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Radio.com. Anywhere you get your podcasts from, you can probably find the podcast version of Outdoor Magazine Radio. Also, talking about podcasting, need to put in a blatant promotional plug. I do a monthly podcast for Jay's Sporting Goods, Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Killer Food Plots, and Polar Craft Boats as well. In fact, when we're done with the show today, we're going to record an Angler Quest podcast talking with Lance Valentine of Walleye 101 and Teaching Fishing. So you can look for that as well. Regardless of whether you're listening to me as a podcast or on the radio show, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Been doing this for a long time, and I wouldn't be able to do it without your support. So that means a lot to me, and thank you. What are you doing outdoors this time of year, right? Most of you are hunting, I would imagine. Waterfowl hunting, deer hunting, small game hunting coming up, late season open water fishing, ice fishing season coming up. But it's the time of the year when we're outdoors a lot, especially this year. Temperatures are dropping, the water's getting colder, and though that creates some great recreational opportunities, also some things to keep in mind as far as cold water safety. Whenever I start thinking about this topic, my mind immediately goes to Joe Marion. Joe is first of all, he's a charter captain. He's an avid angler. He's an avid hunter, but he's a retired Coastguardsman. And when he was intimately involved in coming up with the Coast Guard's cold water rescue program. So this is a guy who knows it inside and out. He's worked several stations across the Great Lakes, working on rescues as well. So the man knows what he's talking about. Joe, welcome to the show. How are you? Joe, you there?
I'm there. Can you
Hey,
hear
Joe.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing, buddy?
Great. I'm doing really good. How about yourself?
Wonderful. Listen, before we get into the other stuff, how's your hunting season going?
It's the worst one ever.
Oh, no. You're just not seeing deer or what?
That's exactly it. Since October 1st, I'm still in the single digits for the deer that I have seen. I'm at 8.
What do you think is going on?
Well, my first, up until I'd say the 12th of November, my corn was still standing. I could hear deer moving in there,
Yep.
but I couldn't see them.
Hey, yeah, when you got standing corn, that makes it tough, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Have you ever thought about or ever done this? And I never have, but when I talk to guys who have done it and they've done it well, it's very effective. Is stalking the standing corn? Have you ever done that?
Not for deer, just for pheasants.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What about? I mentioned you're a charter captain. How was out of Ludington? How was that season this year?
Once we were released to go fishing in June, we had an outstanding season. Lake trout were really going like gangbusters that time. We had a late season as far as everything showing up. The water stayed cool. We never got really hot water this year. So things were really worked well in our favor, but it was mostly a mixed bag. Our kings were slow to show up. We didn't have the numbers that we normally have in August. We were concerned, but they did show up in the end of September, and the PM River got a abundance of kings running up it. So we're really optimistic for 4 years.
When you get that run that late, though, I would think a large percentage of your clients have moved on to something else. They're not thinking about fishing kings at that point, right?
Well, we pulled the charter boat the 10th of September.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's very hard if we leave it in. The charter boat captains that run late in the fall, it's very hard to count on Mother Nature not to be blowing and cancel trips. If you run 1 out of 5, you're doing really good.
What about the size of the fish this year, Joe?
We still got fish up in the 30-pound class. We did not get the numbers of 30-pounders that we got last year, but we still got some big fish. We got a lot of fish in the 20, 25-pound range, so there were still some really good fish. There's still a ton of bait out there. Jay Wesley from the DNR, Great Lakes Basin Coordinator, he's ensuring us that we are going to increase our plants next spring for kings. So that's going to be very helpful in the future, coming down 2, 3, 4 years down the line, along with a strong natural return this fall should give us some good fish for the next 4 years.
Yeah, so things are looking good.
Yes.
Joe, thank you for your service and many years in the Coast Guard. Let's talk about that a little bit. I've always thought that, as me, a guy who loves the water, if my life would have taken a different course and I would have ended up in the Coast Guard, I think it's a great option for a young person as a career like you did, or just for a few years. But is it as interesting of an experience as it looks like from the outside?
It is. I've always told everybody this is the other 4 branches of the military train for stuff that they don't want to ever happen. We train for stuff that happens every day.
What do you mean by what do you mean by that?
Well, we do train for, Coast Guard does have a wartime presence, but we do train for that. But most of our training is search and rescue. Law enforcement for doing searches on boats for doing drugs down in Florida, in the Caribbean, Southern California, or you're doing recreational boating in the Great Lakes. So all your training, 90% of your training, 95% of your training is doing things that are done every day.
Gotcha.
Going out there and towing boats, going out there and doing first aid, or checking life jackets and flares. And as mundane as it sounds, you meet a lot of nice people that way.
And they're not always happy when they're meeting you.
That is correct.
But you did you spent some years down in the Caribbean doing drug interdiction. That doesn't sound mundane at all.
It was fun. I had my opportunities down there. The ship I was on was 378 foot long. It was a Coast Guard cutter chase. We did most of our patrol area is what they call Windward Pass, which is between Cuba and Haiti. It's one of those little spots where the little coastal hoppers can sneak through. It gives them some protection, and then they hop from there right to Key West. And we popped quite a few boats down there hauling drugs. And and it was also mid-'80s when I was there, so that was the big height of the Haitians trying to get into the United States with small boats and rafts and whatever else they could float on.
Oh, that was the Miami Vice era back then.
Yeah, and so it was an exciting thing. I made like 80 trips to Haiti, taking people back. So I got to see some pretty cool stuff down there. I did more drugs in Southern California, Mazatlan, Sea Cortez, between Mazatlan and Cabo San Lucas, than I did over in the Caribbean.
It sounds really interesting and exciting. I'm sure there was a lot of mundane and boring days as well. We got to take a break here. We're talking with Joe Marion, retired Coastguardsman and cold water safety and ice rescue expert. Avid outdoorsman as well. We got to take a break, but when we come back, we'll talk more about the topic at hand, and that is staying safe around cold water, on cold water, and also on the ice. And then Ian Fitzgerald from MUCC will join us with an update on the commercial fishing negotiations. And this week's Ask Avery segment, talking about if you hook a fish, will it live if the line breaks? We'll find out right here on Outdoor Magazine. By now, you know all about Angler Quest boats. The center console design, binary wall system, and smooth ride with lots of room have anglers convinced a pontoon can be a great fishing rig. And the folks at Michigan-based Angler Quest continue to make their boats even better. Now, the signature rocket launcher Arch can tilt down. That's great for high water levels, trailering, and storage. Also, there's a new panfish model that's perfect for smaller inland lakes. The popular Pro Troll models continue to dominate big water for walleye, salmon, and trout, and the family fish can keep everyone happy, whether fishing or cruising. All Angler Quest boats are designed by fishermen and made in Michigan by skilled craftsmen using the latest technology. You can learn more online at anglerquestpontoons.com. That's anglerquestpontoons.com. With more models, upgraded designs, plenty of features, and bigger outboards, this is the perfect year for you to join the Angler Quest family.
At Garber Chevrolet in Midland, Saginaw, Linwood, Caro, and now Chesaning. We're better for a reason. Like Garber's low price guarantee. Get incredible everyday low prices on a new Chevy Equinox, Silverado, Traverse, or Trax. Think you found a better deal somewhere else? Bring it to us, and we will beat it. Getting more options and choices is always better. And Garber's combined inventory is the Great Lakes Bay region's largest selection of new Chevrolets. Browse online at garberchevrolet.com. Then use our Buy From Home feature to purchase entirely online. And Garber Chevrolet's customer service is in a class of its own. We always put your needs first. Better prices, better selection. There's a reason why you'll do better at Garber Chevrolet in Midland, Saginaw, Linwood, Caro, and now Chesaning. Home of the low price guarantee. Online at garberchevrolet.com. Chevy, find new roads.
You'll do better at Garber.
Everybody needs to put gas in their tank, so the next time, why not save money with fuel rewards from Forward Shell convenience stores? With fuel rewards, you'll save at least 5 cents a gallon on every fill-up at the 26 Forward Shell convenience stores. Plus, you can earn additional savings with select products and special offers at those Forward stores. You can save 20, 30, even 40 cents a gallon. And the more you use fuel rewards, the more you can save. I use the Fuel Rewards program every time I stop by a Forward Shell convenience store. And you can too. Go to fuelrewards.com. That's fuelrewards.com. You can also download the Fuel Rewards app on your phone. The Fuel Rewards program at your local Forward Shell convenience store. A great way to save money every time you fill up. To learn more, check out forwardconvenience.com. That's forwardconvenience.com. 20 feet in the air is no time to be second-guessing your choice in tree stands. But with the new Primal line of stands, you'll never have to worry about comfort or noise. Primal's new jaw and truss ladder system gives you an extra firm and quiet attachment, even on irregular trees. The Primal Grip Jaw system features a strong set of jaws so you can securely clamp around the tree. The Backbone Stabilizer Truss lets you connect to almost any healthy tree and eliminates annoying squeaks. With single ladder stands from 16 to 22 feet and double stands up to 18 feet, new Primal tree stands have a model for every hunter. To learn more, check out the website primaltreestands.com. That's primaltreestands.com. Stalk your prey the Primal way with Primal Tree Stands. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's see, let's go to Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your mid-Michigan tracker. And Angler Quest headquarters. I mean, Linwood Beach is Angler Quest headquarters, period. But of course, it's not that time of year when we're seeing a whole bunch of Angler Quest in the slips there. These days, you might be more inclined to be doing storage or maintenance or winterization from the folks at Linwood Beach. Maybe talking to them about buying your boat for next year. Whatever you need, the folks at Linwood Beach can take care of you. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. By the way, a great jumping off spot for Saginaw Bay waterfowl hunters and ice fishermen as well, if we get an ice fishing season. linwoodbeachmarina.com is the website. We're talking with Joe Marion about ice fishing, about cold water safety, about cold water rescues. And Joe, you spent some time over on that side of the state. You were at Coast Guard Station Saginaw River for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, I was there for 5 years.
Yeah.
It was probably the longest stint in one spot that I ever did in my life.
Well, you were Tawas. Where else? In Ludington, right? You did three stops in Michigan.
Tawas, Ludington, Marquette. Saginaw River. I loved Marquette. That was beautiful up there.
Oh, I bet. Whole different world, right?
It is. It was very, very conducive to my lifestyle.
Which is hunting and fishing.
Exactly.
Did you ever spend any time at that big station on Kodiak Island?
One summer we did a patrol up in Alaska. We stayed a week and a half at Kodiak Island while we sent boarding teams to law enforcement school to learn new fishery laws and regulations. So I got to spend some time on Kodiak Island for a week and a half. It was not enough time. I enjoyed it. Caught a bunch of cutthroats. Did a lot of fishing. We did some halibut fishing off there. It was beautiful. It was great.
Yeah, very, very cool place. Let's talk about staying safe in cold water. What type of water temp do we have to worry about? I mean, now we don't have ice yet, but you got a lot of people out in the boats. If I was to fall, overboard right now, this time of year, how much trouble am I going to be in?
Well, right now, I was looking at the weather buoy, which I'm surprised is still in. But we got water temps out there. Surface temps 48 degrees, and down at the bottom is 42 right now. You'll be hypothermic within an hour, easily. You're going to start losing consciousness within, I'd say half hour, 45 minutes. You don't have a whole lot of time in these temperatures out there to get yourself out, warmed up, and into safety.
When you say hypothermic, what does that mean? What does it do to your body?
Well, hypothermia is the lowering of your body's core temperature. Your circulatory system's constantly pumping blood through your whole body, and when you're outside comes contact with that cold environment, it starts to cool. Your body's still pumping blood around through your system, and it starts cooling your inner part of your bodies too. Once your core temperature starts cooling, you're going to start losing consciousness, proper thought processes, feeling in your extremities, things that you're trying to communicate from your brain to your fingers and your feet aren't getting there the right way. You're going to just start shutting down. And that's actually part of the process to try to protect your body from hypothermia. Is your body will start shutting down those blood flows to the extremities, trying to keep that minimal temperature in your core as high as it possibly can. But it's a losing battle if you don't take those precautions.
And this time of year, too, if you're going to be on the water, you're all bundled up. You got snowmobile suits, you got Carhartts, you got all these clothes, you got big, heavy boots on. If you end up in the water now, does all that clothing act as a form of buoyancy, or does it just take you to the bottom like a rock?
Actually, you have a little bit of air trapped in all those clothing, but water being that itself, once the Carhartt snowmobile suits and everything fill up with water, it becomes neutral buoyancy. So it's not going to drag you down unless there's a current. The problem would be with waders. Your waders fill up with water, you get a current, now you got like almost a parachute that's pushing you in the direction that the current's going. So waders are very bad. That's why if you ever fall in and you can't get, the first thing you got to do is get rid of the waders. But as far as your clothes go, Carhartts, 250 pounds. With my Carhartts on in the water, I'm still 250 pounds. The problem is once you try to pull yourself out of the water, now you're going to add that extra water weight out of the water. That neutral buoyancy now becomes weight, and you just probably doubled to tripled your weight, the amount of water that's saturated in your clothes. You're really going to have a hard time. If that ice was barely holding you at 250, it's not going to hold you at 500. You got to do different techniques. You can't just get out, stand up, and run. You got to crawl, roll yourself away from the hole towards safer ice, which is normally towards shore, and get yourself further away from that weak area where you fell through. Get yourself up on your hands and knees, crawl to the shoreline before you start trying to get up. During that whole time, hopefully you're losing some of that water weight, and it'll be a lot easier to move until you start stiffening up from the frozen, the water freezing on the outside of your clothes, and like I said, hypothermia starting to take its effects on you.
If you were to go overboard now, a boat, and you're on open water, how can you get yourself back in the boat? I mean, there's no way the average person could pull himself back in a boat. Could your buddies even get you back in the boat when you're all filled up with water like that?
There's some different techniques to try to help out, but I would definitely think about putting like a little ladder type system into your boat that you can put over so you've got something that you can climb up on. You definitely don't want to go by yourself this time of year. You definitely want to have at least one buddy with you, preferably someone stronger than you.
Way stronger. If you're going to end up weighing 500 pounds, it's going to take a lot of strength to get you out of the water. Yeah.
Yes. There's a couple different techniques that we've used when we pulled people into boats that were in the water that were weighted down with heavy clothes and stuff, and take a rope and put it underneath their arms and then pull up so you can pull them up into the boat. You're not worried at that point in time of the damage you're going to do to the person, because if you don't get them into the boat, they're going to die.
No, that's an interesting point. Yeah, so you hurt their arm, so you hurt their chest as you're pulling them up. That's minor compared to what could happen.
Correct. I can heal from those. I can't heal from death.
Gotcha. All right, whether it's late season open water fishing or early ice fishing season, somebody goes in, they get in the water, you've managed to get them out, you get them back on shore or whatever. What do you do next? How do you treat them? I mean, the old saying, frostbite, you rub snow on it. Well, that kind of stuff is way obsolete, right?
Correct. No, you don't want to do that because you're just cooling down. You don't want to rub those spots too, because your frostbite and hypothermia go hand in hand a lot. But when you're getting to these temperatures and the wind's whipping and the wind chill's below freezing and ice is forming, your extremities, your hands, your skin is starting to freeze too. Wherever you touch, rub, push, you're going to probably bruise because you're going to be breaking blood vessels and stuff underneath the skin, crushing those ice crystals around. You want to get them out of that environment. You got to get them into a warm vehicle, a warm house, get them out of the wet clothes. The wet clothes are still zapping heat from them. They need to get out of that, wrap them up in a blanket. If there is no other option, no other heat sources, get them out of the clothes, get yourself out of your clothes, put yourself together under a blanket, let your body heat help warm him up. It's very important to get him starting to warm up, because without that, he's going to continue to get colder. Until his extremities start warming, those cold circulations in his system are still cooling his core temperature.
And what are we looking for? I mean, obviously, if somebody goes in the water, we know they're in trouble, but what are we going to see in their behavior, in their demeanor, that makes us realize, okay, this went from a bad situation to something that could be really bad?
Well, when they're first go in, I always try to walk on water because I don't want to be in there. But you're cold. You're trying to get out. You have your first few minutes is your best chance of self-help. Okay? After a while, you start losing that ability to help yourself. You start flailing around more with less effect. You're trying to get them to, you're trying to get them to grab a hold of something. They can't get a hold of it. They can't feel what you're throwing to them or reaching to them with. At those points, now you got to go into a more help mode. Don't put yourself into a situation where you have to be rescued, but you might have to get a longer pole with a hook on it and hook their clothing to pull them towards you. Move the boat closer to them. Throw something out larger, tie a seat cushion to the end of the rope so that they have something bigger to grab a hold of than just the rope. Things like that gives them a better ability and to grasp something, because even something as large as a seat cushion could be really small when you can't feel nothing.
So when you go on the ice, do you actually take a coil of rope with you?
Yes, I do. I have one in my sled just in case I have to throw it to somebody, or to either pull myself out or pull them out.
Yeah. It comes down to, it seems to me after talking to you several times, is think these things through ahead of time. Kind of run them through in your head. Come up with a scenario so if God forbid it does happen, you've at least thought it through, so it's not a completely foreign situation to you.
Correct. Coast Guard, we trained all the time to do these rescues, and so that when the situation came up, it wasn't so much did we have to think about it, it was just a response. The more you think about it, even in law enforcement, you get a new holster, you want to do 2,000 draws with that new holster to get it so that it's natural. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to be working or playing in that environment out there, you want it to become natural when you need to do something to fix it.
Joe, always a pleasure. Listen, I'm sorry to cut you off. I got to let you go, though. And whenever we talk, I get off topic and shooting the breeze, and I apologize for that, but I love talking with you. Joe Marion, thank you for your service, and thank you for helping us to stay safe. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Ian Fitzgerald from MUCC with an update on the commercial fishing negotiations right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Port Huron on WPHM 1380 AM. You can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. And you can hear us in Holland on two stations, WHTC AM, that's 1450, and 99.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. From plumbing, heating, air conditioning, sump pumps, cleaning your ductwork, cooling, anything to keep your house warm, dry, keep it running smoothly, no leaks. The folks at Wilds can help you out. Check them out online at wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. While you're online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And MUCC.org. MUCC.org is the website of the Michigan United Conservation Clubs. By the way, if you want to save 25% on your membership, use the promo code MIKE, all caps, MIKE, to save 25% on your renewal or your first-time membership with MUCC. Ian Fitzgerald is the policy assistant for MUCC, joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Ian, welcome back. How are you?
Good, Mike. Thanks for having me back.
Always a pleasure. Listen, you've been involved in intimately involved in some very interesting negotiations regarding the commercial fishing legislation. We haven't heard much lately. What's going on?
Yeah, so this is an issue that I've been working on personally for about 2 years since I really started full-time with MUCC. And, we're coming to the end of the legislative session that ends on December 31st when the new House members take office. And so it's kind of our last crack at bat here. And so the House bills are 4567, 4568, and 4569. And they've already passed the House. And you haven't heard much because they've been sitting in the Senate Natural Resources Committee for about 8 months now. And Senator McBroom is the chairman of that committee, and he's had some work groups between the two sides of the issue. So, you've got the commercial fishing interest, and then you've got kind of us representing anglers and sportsmen and women on the other side. And so he recently released a report based on those conversations he's been having and some of the recommendations he wants to put forward. Of course, the sticking issue is always game fish, lake trout, perch, and walleye, and that's really where our two sides are button heads.
Is something going to happen here during this lame duck, or are we going to be looking at this next year even?
Well, it's interesting to see what lame duck's going to look like, especially with some of the restrictions in place. I know Governor Whitmer has called for a lame duck, as she's put it, based on, the recent cases we've seen, but not to get into that. But we're going to be pushing for it hard. We're hoping to see some amendments coming out of McBroom's office based on, his recommendations. We're going to look at them carefully and try to get something through, of course, without any provision of allowing the take of game fish from the commercial fishing interest. And, this isn't just my idea or Amy's idea. This is, our grassroots policy process, and our members have spoken very clearly that they don't want lake trout, they don't want yellow perch or walleye in commercial nets. But
right now, that is still on the table?
It's still on the table from Senator McBroom and the commercial fishing interest. They still are trying to push for that. Even if it's a small allotment, that's what they're looking at. And, we're steadfast in our opposition to that. And these are really bills that we've pushed forward, and it updates just as some history, the statutes surrounding commercial fishing dates back to 1960. And it's like a patchwork of regulations that, the DNR really has a tough time enforcing. So, these bills would update the statute to modern times with provisions such as GPS net marking, updating the fees for commercial fishing industry, and protecting game fish. So we've pushed it through the House, we've got it to the Senate, and now it's starting to get a little wonky, but we're going to be pushing it all the way through if we can.
Is the concept of incidental catch, is that causing some problems here? Because, I've heard the commercial fishermen say, well, look, we can't, even if we can't target those fish, occasionally we're going to catch them. What do you want us to do with them? Throw them back and let them die? I mean, is that part of the conversation?
That is part of the conversation is bycatch, but I think from our side, we really see that, even allowing a certain level of bycatch, opens up the door, and it starts, what everyone mentions, a slippery slope to really allowing these species that have been reared and managed for over 40 years. Anglers were really the ones that restored these species from 1960 when it was a mixture of commercial fishing and invasives in the Great Lakes that had caused them to decline. So we really don't want to see that happen again. And these are species that are, thriving right now in the hands of anglers, and we wouldn't want to see that happen again.
Does it come down to hundreds of thousands of sport fishermen versus a dozen or so commercial fishermen? Is that what it comes down to?
That's really what it comes down to. We've got, I want to say, over 1 million anglers in the state. They have vested interest in these species. They've put, thousands of dollars, themselves, individuals, into these species. And then you've got about 10 to 15 commercial fishing operation. And part of it is we don't want to, put them out of business necessarily. That's what everyone always, comes at us with. But, these bills would still let them take whitefish, which is really their bread and butter. That's what allows them. And we want to have good research on whitefish. We want the whitefish population to thrive and allow them to take whitefish. It's just that game fish that, we want off the table.
Literally.
Absolutely.
I don't know, and it just seems like we've been talking about it for such a long time, and nothing seems to be happening. It reminds me of the whole Asian carp conversation. We've been talking about the problem forever, and nothing seems to be getting done. But man, I hope something can happen here, one way or another, pretty soon.
It's a tough issue, and again, I've worked on it for 2 years, so I understand that frustration. You know, people listening, if they contact their own state senator, call your state senator and tell them you support these bills, because really what it comes down to is the entire Senate wanting these bills to go through. So they're held up in committee. Call your own state senator. Tell them to get these bills through, because we want to protect game fish in the Great Lakes.
4567, 4568, and 4569?
Correct.
All right. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate your time. Ian Fitzgerald of MUCC, MUCC.org, MUCC.org. We'll take a break. When we come back, wrap up the second hour with this week's Ask Avery segment, talking about if you hook a fish and the line breaks, will that fish die or not? Details coming up. Security Credit Union wants to thank you for helping to make them one of Michigan's fastest growing credit unions. Check out Security's Debit Rewards program, where you can earn points just by using your debit or Titanium Rewards credit card. Redeem those points for great gifts and merchandise. Or how about the Save to Win account? That's a Security Credit Union account that gives you all the benefits of a traditional savings account, plus the chance to win big. Every $25 you deposit into this share certificate earns you an entry into the monthly and quarterly drawings. The more you save, the more chances to earn, up to 10 entries per month. You'll build up your savings, earn interest and dividends, and have a chance at multiple prizes. And remember, Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. Federally insured by the NCUA. Have you tried the Mike Avery Hunter Sticks from Michigan Brand Meats? They feature two of my favorites, elk and pepper, and I think they taste great. I've been working with the Grillo family of Michigan Brand for a few years now, and I couldn't be happier. Michigan Brand is family-owned and based right here in Michigan, and they make lots of great products. From jerky, sausage, and those Hunter Sticks to their famous Michigan Brand hams, you can't go wrong with Michigan Brand meats. Plus, Michigan Brand can process your boned-out wild game, too. Check out the website, michiganbrand.net, for more info. That's michiganbrand.net. You can buy the Mike Avery Hunter Sticks on that website. Plus, you can get them at Jay's Sporting Goods, all Forward convenience stores, Jack's Fruit Markets, and many other great stores, too. There's a complete list on the website. Again, that's michiganbrand.net for the Mike Avery Hunter Sticks, the outstanding Michigan Brand hams, and lots more. michiganbrand.net.
It's a complicated world we live in. Right about now, I'll bet your head is spinning like a tornado with news and opinions and conflicting do this and don't do that recommendations. Some days, you just want to throw up your hands, go to the woods, and stay there. And you know, that's not a bad idea. Jay's Sporting Goods encourages you to get back to your roots. Do some simple, traditional things for a while. In Michigan's great outdoors, space is one thing we have plenty of. So put as much social distance as you like between you and everyone else, including all your social media pals who somehow just recently became experts on every topic. And one more thing. Before you head out, head into Jay's Sporting Goods. Because even though there are shortages of a lot of things these days, Jay's has just what you need to make the most of your escape to our beautiful wide open spaces. It's the gateway to social distancing the way God intended. Jay's Sporting Goods, Clare and Gaylord.
It's time to think about your pig. You know, the propane tank in your backyard that heats your home. Well, there's no better company to fill your pig than Forward Energy, covering over 20 counties. Forward Energy is a family-owned and operated propane supplier that's fueled area homes, farms, businesses, and hunters and anglers since 1925. Fill your pig this year. Visit forwardenergy.com to find out about new customer pricing and programs.
With Forward Energy.
When you buy a Michigan hunting or fishing license, you're helping to fund conservation efforts across the state. The majority of funding for taking care of Michigan's fish and wildlife comes from you, hunters and anglers, not state taxes. So on behalf of the Michigan Wildlife Council, we'd like to thank you for your part in ensuring that Michigan's hunting and fishing heritage will be here for generations. Learn how the Michigan Wildlife Council promotes the role of hunting and fishing at hereformioutdoors.org.
You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, AM and FM. 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Super Talk 1570 WWCK. And you can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ. That's 1090 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is you ask Avery a question, and sometimes Avery answers, and sometimes Avery goes to the experts. This time, Jeff sent me an email, and he says he wants to pose this to Ali Shakur. He says, I was wondering if you could ask Ali, the walleye and science guy we've had here on the show before, if a fish breaks off a lure, will it live? For instance, I'm using a Rapala with 3 treble hooks, and a big pike hits it and breaks it off. Will it live, or will it sink and die? He said, I've caught small pike with single hooks in its mouth, but not 3 treble hooks. If all the hooks are just right, could it seal the fish's mouth up and die? What are the chances of that? He says, I figure Ali, with all of his research and science, would be the guy to ask. So you know what? I reached out to Ali. Here's his answer. And Ali Shakur, by the way, tournament fisherman, fisheries biologist, and just an all-around good guy. He says, generally speaking, hooking mortality in northern pike is less than 10%, actually more like 5% or so. He says there doesn't appear to be a significant difference in mortality with different types of gear, a single hook versus a small treble hook versus a large or multiple hooks. Where the fish is hooked is more important. He says externally hooked fish or fish hooked in the mouth have very little mortality. Fish that get hooked deep in the gullet or down in the gills will have substantially higher mortality but can survive. He says he has a picture of a muskie he caught with a hook sticking out through its body where his stomach is. It was alive, but in bad shape. It was long and skinny. I asked him about different types of fish. Is there a different mortality rate among different species of fish? He says muskies can be less hardy than pike. He said most of the species we see here are fairly hardy, but they can vary based on things like stress, from catching them out of deep water or spawning or water temp or environmental factors, food quality, things like that. He says walleye are pretty tough, salmon are pretty tough, pike are pretty tough. He says, again, hook location on the fish is really important. And again, Ali is the guy to ask on this. So going back to Jeff's original question, he says, if a fish breaks off a lure, will it live? Ali Shakur is saying the odds are very good that it will live. Now, one of the things that Jeff had asked me, he said they say in salt water, the hook will dissolve and fall out in days. Actually, to be honest, I forgot to ask Ali about that one, so we don't know the answer to that one. So, Jeff, there's your answer. This week's Ask Avery segment, you said go to Ali. I did. Ali's the man on this. And I'll just a reminder here, this is something we do every week, Ask Avery segment, brought to you by my friends at Security Credit Union, by the way, securitycu.org. If you have a question for me, feel free to get in touch with me. The email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. You can hit me up on any of the social media outlets as well. It can be a question that you want to pose directly to me. If I can answer, I will. Or in this case, if you know somebody, for example, Jeff says Ollie's on Facebook, but Jeff is not. He only does email, and he didn't have Ollie's address. So he needed to use me as an intermediary to get the question to Ollie, and I am more than happy to do that. If you have a question for the DNR, I know you can submit requests to the DNR, questions and such, but to be honest with you, I might have better access just because I know how to kind of go around the back channel and get to people, and I have phone numbers and stuff that I might be able to reach people that you cannot. So if you have a question along that line you would like me to pass along, or anybody in general on any topic outdoor related, send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, or hit me up on any of the social media outlets. This is something we do every week. And we actually started it. I was thinking about this. We started it back the first weekend in January, kind of as an experiment, and it was suggested by a listener. And I thought, that's not a bad idea. So we took that suggestion, we ran with it. It's been very successful, very popular. I get a lot of questions sent to me every week. Again, sometimes for me, and a lot of them this time of year dealing with legal issues with the DNR, what's legal, what's not. And that's what the Ask Avery segment is for. And it wouldn't be here, it wouldn't be possible without the good folks from Security Credit Union, one of Michigan's fastest growing credit unions. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they want to help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We'll take a break here for the top of the hour, actually. When we come back, Mark Martin, I just got a text right now. Mark said he's standing by, ready to go. So, Charlie, we are officially on autopilot. Mark Martin, markmartins.net, and fishingvacationschool.com, talking about deer hunting in the sand dunes. First time I heard Mark talk about this, I thought he was crazy. Well, he's crazy like a fox is what he is. And also fall walleye fishing. Look forward to the upcoming ice fishing season as well. And wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner will help us wrap up this week's show. You can always find me online, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and, of course, the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Take a break. Lots more coming up. Stay with us.